After setting out on a quest to buy our first house, we had to search high, low, to the left, to the right, inside, outside, and even sideways. 15 months later, we consulted the map one more time and finally found our house. So after spending 4 hours signing paperwork at the lawyer's office and forking over every single dollar I had, we were finally homeowners. Yay! We spent our first weekend painting all the bedrooms, but unfortunately we forgot to bring furniture. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to episode number 2, where we'll be working on our first projects as homeowners to actually live in the house. Stay tuned. One week after we finished painting everything, it was finally move-in day, so I arrived a little bit early to give one final walkthrough while the house was still empty. Once that was done, it was back outside in my trusty lawn chair waiting for the reinforcements to show up. And as I'm sitting here, I suppose it's worth flashing back to the night before to show how I emptied my apartment single-handedly. At first glance, you might think normal apartment, normal kitchen, normal closet, normal living room, but the closer you look, you realize it isn't exactly standard. Case in point, the 2 drum kits taking up half of the living space. I've learned that I'm pretty bad at estimating how long stuff will take, and the funny thing about starting this at 8 o'clock was that my buddy said he would be free to help at 8 o'clock, and I said that I'd be done by then. That didn't happen. Most people start loading the truck with, big pieces of furniture. Me? No. We're starting with 30 pieces of flagstone. And about half an hour later, I actually got to start working on the boxes, the safe, speakers, the furniture, tables, your tractor tires, tree stands, drum kits, you name it. And while that all seemed pretty fast, this was shot at about 3:30 in the morning. Speaking of morning, boom, it's the next morning. It's time to load in your kayak, bed frame, and box spring. And then in comes the mattress. Boy, that sure looked easy. The reality is it was very far from easy. Let's see how this actually went. For reference, getting the mattress down from the apartment and into the truck took longer than loading all of the flagstones. But hey, truck's loaded, right? And we're ready to move upstate. And I thought this would be the final time I was leaving my apartment, but I had to go back to get a whole bunch of stuff later that night. Anyway, here we are back at the house, and reinforcements are just starting to arrive. The first one on the scene is my buddy Sean, who was designated to help me unload my truck.
Yeah, after last night, yeah.
What was last night?
Kind of perfect timing, because right as Sean got there, Jenna arrived, along with her U-Haul and an armada of humans, both big and small.
Oh wait, is that another U-Haul?
That's Jenna's.
Oh wow.
Oh wow, indeed. Little did he know that a few months later we would be loading another U-Haul with all of our furniture. And since I don't really remember when we did this, I think right here is a good spot for it.
Oh, did you really?
Good. I'm done.
Speaking of done, with so much going on, I decided it was easier to not record any of the unloading process. Although it would have been cool to have a reverse time-lapse of the truck unloading process. But nonetheless, all of that flagstone safely made it up to the mountain, and check out how buff I got in the process. When we first saw this house, I knew immediately that I'd want to replace this super old door with very thin glass. When we were moving in and trying to get our mattress up the stairs, I think you all know what that sound means. For those unfamiliar, that is the sound of me breaking our door about 5 hours after moving in. The issue was when we were trying to bend the mattress around this door frame, it got stuck, and when it released, it popped into the glass and shattered it. Great. After consulting with JJ Vision TV security department, we decided that a garbage bag and a piece of wood was the most secure route for home protection here. But hey, setbacks make for good content, right? So if you want to see the door replacement process in a future video, make sure you hit that subscribe button. While we were able to get the mattress up the stairs, we can't say the same for the box spring. We definitely tried to get it up the stairs, and while it seemed like it was going to fit initially, that last step proved to be the deal breaker. I had crawled up to see for myself and couldn't believe how close it was. It was so close that we decided to try the other way and ended up scratching the wall. So now every day that I walk down the stairs, I'm reminded about how I damaged my house in 2 different ways on the first day that we lived there. Jarred by all the commotion, a certain little piggy is lurking. Shocked by what she sees, she's going to jump down for a closer look and hit us with those judgy eyes. Ladies and gentlemen, the star of JJ Vision TV, here she is, the one and only Brits Maggie! Yeah, excuse me, Maggie. Mom and Dad aren't ready to accept defeat yet. We're going to try tugging on it some more, and then we're going to try applying some leverage. And none of that worked. The next day I thought it would be a good idea to try taking the box spring apart. I guess I thought that I could break it into pieces and get it up the stairs. Let's just skip the breaking it into pieces part and try getting it up the stairs. Removing all the felt just adds friction to the equation, and even though the frame is thinner without the material, it still didn't fit. For the first time in this whole video, I'm going to do something intelligent. I've decided at this point to build my own box frame. So now's as good a time as any to go over the plan! All things considered, this project should be pretty straightforward. You're just going to need to measure the width and the length of the opening, and apparently I only did one of those on camera. From there, I was just going to lay out a simple grid system. Was going to have the planks set up like a normal box spring would, and I was going to tie it together with some 1x4s, and I was going to attach it to 2x4s on the side rails. Moving on to the material list, this was also pretty basic. We're going to need 12 1x4s, 3 1x2s, and 2 2x4s. With the list in hand, it was time to go to my favorite store, Lowe's. And here's me not parking in the pro parking spot and walking 5 feet in the door to get to the 2x4s. I guess that's a lesson for a later video. It also seems like I made 2 trips to Lowe's because the only thing you see me buying in this video is the 2x4s. So after finding 2 boards that are relatively straight, it was time to check out. And it kind of looks like I stole these items, but I can guarantee you that I did pay for them. At the time of purchase, the 2 2x4s cost me about $15, the 1x2s cost me about $6, and the 1x4s cost me about $48, bringing the grand total to $69. After heading back home, it was time to go down to the demonic murder basement to get all the tools that I need. In this case, I really only needed my miter saw, my nail gun, and my compressor. And if you needed proof that 1890s farmhouses aren't built for 6'4" people, here it is. I'm pretty sure this is the only time I ever did anything outside the front of the house. I later found out that there was an outdoor power cable on the side of the house, so it was kind of unnecessary to run this long power cable through the front door. They say to measure twice and cut once. I like to double that just to be safe. So after measuring out all the 2x4s and squaring it up, I cut them down to the proper size. If one end has a blemish or is bowed a little bit, it's always good to cut that end off. Moving on to the 1x4s, that's the same process. Measure, square up, and cut. But I gotta say, watching this a year and a half later, it's kind of cringy because you could either use the first one as a template so you don't have to measure each board, or you could set up a stop block. Unfortunately, with this temporary setup, a stop block wasn't really feasible, but a template definitely would have sped up the process. Just be sure to use the first cut that you make to reduce any variance in future cuts. And as I'm sitting here watching myself cut the 1x2s, I definitely could have just measured one piece and lined them all up together and cut them at the same time. This doesn't need to be an exact science, as we're just making a bed frame. We're not building a cabinet or anything. Every woodworker knows that when you're done making all your cuts, you should give it a nice big hug. With the wood all cut, it was time to bring it up to the bedroom along with the bed itself. Most beds these days have hooks that snap it together, so assembly was a breeze. After that, it was time to attach the 2x4 side rails along with all of these slats that will make up the bed frame. You don't necessarily need to screw these together, but I wanted to so it would be easier to move. Same could be said for the 1x2s. I brad nailed them in just for good measure. At the time of filming this, I didn't have an angle grinder, and adding the 2x4 side rails added some thickness, so I needed to cut down this piece to make it fit. You don't really need it, but it definitely adds a lot of strength to the bed frame that I think was a net positive. Once the mattress was in place, it was time to do some testing to see if this thing would snap like a toothpick.
Oh, cut the camera, cut the camera, cut the camera. Oh!
That was a successful test, so now we're adding the nightstand into its final place. Maggie also had to be relocated, and as per usual, she just lets things happen. However, when she got to test the bed for herself, she definitely gave her seal of approval. If you remember from episode 1, we had a different bed in the master bedroom. I suppose it's worth getting into the story behind that because, as with all things, it didn't go as planned. Mattresses these days tend to come rolled up in a vacuum-sealed package, so once we got it in place and opened it up, it expanded very quickly, and then we wrestled with the plastic to get it all off. Once we got it into place, we realized that even though we ordered a king-size bed, we were sent a California king, so it is too narrow and it hangs off the edge of the bed. Now, despite these companies having mattress pickup services, we don't live in an area that they, in fact, service. So we were kind of stuck with this mattress. And the biggest issue was that if the queen mattress wasn't going to fit up the stairs, we knew that this California king wasn't going to fit down the stairs. Nothing that a few ratchet straps can't solve. I basically folded the mattress like a taco and tightened the straps until it fit down the stairs. Fortunately for us, we were able to prove that the company just flat out sent us the wrong mattress, and we basically got 2 for the price of 1. Despite this being a really nice centerpiece in our living room, my mom's housewarming present turned into a mattress for me and my best friend. Day turns to night on the mountain, and as darkness descends the house, the moon rises in the southern sky. But then we realized pretty quickly that none of our downstairs windows had any curtains on them. We definitely don't live in a busy neighborhood, but I don't really like the idea of any car that comes down the street being able to see straight into the living room.
What have we got here?
Especially when Mars is out and I'm doing my nighttime rituals.
Oh, yeah, good stuff.
Hey, I mean, come on, how much do I gotta pay for this house to get a little privacy here? At this rate, I might as well just publish this on the internet and let everyone see it. Jesus. Dad, I think that creepy man is outside again. What? Where? They tell you better get the hell off my property, bucko. I'm coming out there. A few $100 for later, we returned from Lowe's with a bunch of curtains for the windows. And of course, Maggie was here to supervise our installation process as the job site boss. After giving her sniff of approval, she thought it was time for lunch. But at least during her lunch break, she went over the instructions on how to install these curtains. We found that it was a little easier to attach the mounting brackets to the curtain itself prior to hanging them. It just makes the installation go a little bit faster. You really only need a screwdriver to make this work, but I used an impact driver, a drill, a pencil, a tape measure, a magnetic armband, and some band-aids. Jesus, whoa. I know you two aren't still doing the prep work for these curtains. I mean, come on. With my boss breathing down my neck, here is me carefully reading the instructions on how to install these things. You don't necessarily need to make them equal distant apart, but I wanted it to look aesthetically pleasing. So with some firm butt support, I measured out the gaps for each mounting bracket. To avoid any wood splitting, I set my drill bit depth to be just shallower than the length of the screw. And then I got to work pre-drilling the holes for the mounting brackets. There was just one problem.
Hey, what the hell are you doing? It's not supposed to go that way. It's supposed to go underneath, like this.
I mean, well, you're just sitting there watching me measure. What the hell didn't you say something for?
I thought you knew what you were doing.
I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, is this how you want it?
Yeah, that's how I want it.
All right. Once we got all that sorted out, I mounted the brackets using the provided screws and then spent a few minutes trying to get this thing connected to the brackets. And then it was finally time for... Well, now that we're out of that Sticky situation. I'm calling this one done, and let's see a montage of the rest of the curtains. Hit it!
Rung digga dung 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 digga dung 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 digga dung dung dow. Rung digga dung 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 digga dung 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 digga dung dung dow. Rung digga dung 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 digga 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 dow. Rung digga dung 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 digga dung dung digga dung dung dow.
That's going to about do it for episode number 2. If you're interested in seeing next week's episode where we actually start to work on some real projects, or if you want to see Maggie commit some more atrocities like tripping over our pile of hardware, make sure you tune in next time. It's a lot of work putting together these videos, working a full-time job, and actually doing the projects, so if you think I've earned it, I'd love for you to hit the subscribe button. I mean, come on, look at those puppy dog eyes. My God, another hour later you're still working? I'm just going to sit here and wait for you two to finish. I want to see these curtains up and hung by the time I am ready for second dinner.
What the hell are you flirting with online?
Probably have mosquitoes in my hair now. Ugh.